Embark with us on a profound journey through the diverse history and rich culture of Native Americans, who for millennia nurtured a wealth of traditions and ways of life. As we traverse these vast landscapes, we'll uncover the unique tapestry of indigenous cultures that have shaped the story of North America. Imagine a time when these lands were teeming with diverse ecosystems, each one home to a different indigenous group. From the icy expanses of the Arctic, where the Inuit people thrived, mastering the art of survival in extreme conditions, to the lush forests of the Pacific Northwest, where the Haida people carved totem poles and crafted canoes, each landscape tells a unique story. Travel further south, and you'll encounter the arid deserts of the Southwest, home to the Navajo and Hopi tribes, who wove intricate baskets and spun tales of ancient spirits. The Great Plains, once roamed by the Sioux and Cheyenne, echo with the sounds of thundering buffalo herds and the whispers of the wind through the tall grasses. Then there were the dense swamps of Florida, where the Seminole people built their stilt houses and navigated the waterways in dugout canoes. Each of these ecosystems shaped the cultures, languages, and traditions of the indigenous people who called them home, creating a rich tapestry of diversity and resilience. But these lands were more than just a backdrop for survival. They were a source of spiritual connection, a provider of sustenance, and a guide for living in harmony with nature. The indigenous peoples of North America understood this deeply, embodying a respect for the land that was woven into their everyday practices. From the Inuit in the Arctic, to the Haida on the Pacific coast, to the Seminoles in the swamps of Florida, each group had its unique culture, language, art, and survival strategies closely tied to their environment. As we journey together through these diverse landscapes, we are reminded of the enduring legacy of these cultures and their indelible imprint on the world we know today. Indigenous communities had highly developed cultural practices. Their artistry was not just a form of expression, but a testament to their skill, spirituality, and connection to the natural world. Intricate beadwork, pottery, and weaving served as mediums through which stories of their people were told, and their spiritual beliefs were shared. Spirituality, deeply rooted in their day-to-day life, was expressed through rituals, dances, and songs, fostering a profound respect and gratitude for the earth and its bounties. The sacred rituals and ceremonies, often led by tribe elders, were pivotal in passing down their beliefs from generation to generation. Family structures in these societies were diverse and often matrilineal, with lineage and inheritance passed down through the mother's line. This was a reflection of the high regard in which women were held, often seen as the bearers of life and the keepers of culture. Their agricultural methods were sustainable and attuned to the rhythms of the earth. The practice of companion planting, for instance, was common among many tribes. The three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, were planted together, each supporting the growth of the others, demonstrating a deep understanding of ecological balance. Oral traditions played an essential role in the preservation of their history and culture. Elders were the custodians of these stories, sharing tales of creation, moral lessons, and historical accounts around the fire. These narratives, passed down orally through generations, were the thread that kept the fabric of their culture intact. The crux of their existence was based on values of community cohesion, respect for the environment, and the wisdom of elders. The tribe was seen as a collective, where the well-being of the community was prioritized over individual needs. The environment was treated with reverence, not just as a resource, but as a living entity to be cared for. The elders, with their wisdom and experience, were the guiding light, steering their communities towards a harmonious existence. The values of community cohesion, respect for the environment, and the knowledge of the elders were central to their identity. The arrival of Europeans had devastating effects on the indigenous peoples. The first settlers came with a thirst for exploration, discovery, and riches, oblivious to the profound impact their arrival would have on the land and its original inhabitants. The indigenous peoples, with their diverse cultures, languages, and traditions, were not prepared for the tidal wave of change that was about to befall them. The Europeans, driven by their own cultural and religious beliefs, had little appreciation for the richness and complexity of the indigenous societies they encountered. Colonization was not a peaceful process. It was marked by conflicts, power struggles, and a blatant disregard for the rights of indigenous peoples. European settlers imposed their own social, political, and economic structures, often through force. Forced relocations became a common practice, uprooting communities from their ancestral lands and disrupting their traditional ways of life. This loss of land was not just about physical displacement. It was a loss of cultural identity, a severing of the deep spiritual connection that the indigenous peoples had with their environment. The spread of diseases brought by the Europeans was another tragic consequence of colonization. Smallpox, measles, and influenza tore through indigenous communities, who had no immunity to these foreign diseases. These epidemics decimated their population, leaving a fraction of the original indigenous population alive. The suppression of indigenous culture, language, and traditions was perhaps the most insidious effect of colonization. The colonizers sought to civilize the indigenous peoples according to their own cultural standards, often through forced assimilation. These deliberate efforts to eradicate indigenous cultures led to a significant loss of cultural heritage. Traditional knowledge, oral histories, languages, and art forms were suppressed, leading to a cultural erosion that indigenous peoples are still trying to recover from today. The effects of colonization were indeed profound and far-reaching. Forced relocations, loss of lands, and spread of diseases decimated the population and suppressed their culture, language, and traditions. Despite the suppression, many indigenous communities have resisted and continue to fight for their rights. The history of Native Americans is a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity, a saga of resilience and adaptation against the odds. The indigenous peoples of North America, from the frozen expanses of the Arctic to the sun-baked deserts of the Southwest, have refused to let their rich tapestry of cultures be erased. They have stood strong in the face of adversity, pushing back against attempts to marginalize them, to silence their voices, and to erase their histories. Their resilience is not just about survival, but also about the fight for justice. It is about asserting their rights, their sovereignty, and their place in the world. It is a fight that continues to this day, with indigenous communities leading movements for land rights, environmental conservation, and cultural preservation. But the story of resistance is not only about struggle, it is also about celebration, a celebration of cultures that have survived and thrived. It is about the preservation of old traditions, the songs and dances, the stories and legends, the art and craft that have been passed down through generations. It is about the revival of languages that were once on the brink of extinction. These communities are not just preserving their past, but are shaping their future. They are using education as a tool to empower their youth, to ensure that their stories are not forgotten, and to contribute to the broader global conversation on issues such as climate change and social justice. They are also asserting their cultural identity in the modern world, blending the old with the new in exciting ways. From fashion to music, from literature to film, indigenous voices are making a mark, contributing to the rich tapestry of global culture. They demonstrate resilience, advocate for environmental conservation, cultural preservation, and education, while simultaneously preserving old traditions and reviving their culture. The history of Native Americans is rich and inspiring. We've journeyed through time, across diverse landscapes and cultures, piecing together the vibrant tapestry that makes up the heritage of the indigenous peoples of North America. Each thread holds a story, a tradition, a piece of wisdom passed down through generations. Their stories are not just of a past long gone, but continue to echo through the ages, informing and influencing the world we live in today. Their deep connection to nature, a profound understanding that we are a part of the environment, not apart from it, offers lessons that reverberate strongly in a world grappling with climate change and environmental degradation. The cultural diversity of the indigenous peoples is staggering. From the Inuit in the Arctic to the Seminoles in the Florida swamps, each group has honed and preserved a unique culture, language, and art deeply intertwined with their surroundings. This diversity is a testament to human adaptability and creativity, a testament to life's capacity to flourish under different conditions. Yet, this rich tapestry of heritage was not woven without challenge. It bears the marks of historical adversities, of colonization, displacement, and cultural suppression. But it also tells a story of endurance and resilience. Despite these challenges, the indigenous communities fought and continue to fight for their rights, for cultural preservation, and for recognition. This resilience is not just about survival, but about the courage to keep their heritage alive, to pass on their knowledge, their languages, their traditions, and their respect for the land to future generations. It's about holding on to their identities in a world that often tried to erase them. So as we conclude this journey, let's remember that the history of Native Americans is not just a chapter in the past. It's a living, breathing narrative that continues to shape our present and future. Their deep connection to nature, their cultural diversity, and their endurance despite historical adversities make their heritage a valuable part of our human history.